What is creativity? Well, the way I see creativity as being the creation of something new that has a purpose. Some would argue that the purpose or the purpose of the product in the creative process sometimes can be subjective. Sometimes can be not very evident at all. An example that comes to my mind is when Beethoven premiered one of his pieces of music in his time. A critic said, can't believe you think this is music," and Beethoven said, "It's not for you, it's for a later age." So sometimes the purpose of the product may not be evident. Okay, imitation in creativity. I think imitation is a very important part of the creative process. When young people are, beginning to explore their creative possibilities, I don't know if you can actually begin that because I think it will start at birth. But anyway, as they're working in the creative process, they need to embrace the idea of imitation. Any great artist begins off their development as an artist by trying to, or unknowingly, copying works that they admire from other artists. Beethoven is a prime example. His early quartets are very, very much like Mozart's. Now, of course, his later quartets are not like anything else in this world. So, but he went through the imitative process at the beginning of his learning to master the art of the string quartet. It doesn't mean that if somebody is imitating something as part of their own personal creative journey, that doesn't make their product that they produce or the process they go through any less worth. But it is definitely a part of it. It's unfortunate that during the external evaluation of some students' creative process or creativity, as we try to evaluate creativity, sometimes it's looked down upon, this idea of imitation. That shouldn't be the case. That should definitely be an important part of the creative process. And as students get a better handle on what it is that they have to offer as artists or creators in any genre, any discipline, the imitation may decline and the more novel concepts will emerge. So we need to foster imitation as part of the creative process. An interesting point that I like to always consider when I have my students work on creative projects is the idea of limitation. I think it was Stravinsky once said that true creation comes out of limitation. And I believe that. I find that young people, if they're given free rein, and if I say to them, go ahead and create anything in any way, and sky's the limit, you have no limitation whatsoever, it can sometimes be really overwhelming for the person. It's not just confusing for a student, it can be confusing for any artist at all, or anybody in any discipline. With my students, I like to ask them to consider a limitation on what they do. Sometimes limitations can be imposed by me as the teacher. Sometimes limitations can be imposed by the students, which is, in my opinion, more valuable. But the idea is that they would set limitations in the discipline that they're working to try to contain the creative process a little bit more and control the creative process a little bit more. And then as the students progress and become more comfortable with the creative process, they're able to then, during the process, impose limitations on themselves, sometimes unconsciously be able to create limitations for themselves in the material that they're working. Can you identify creativity? That is a tough one and very subjective. There are many questions to be considered there. I think that it's important for the students to be able to identify their own creativity. I think it's very valuable for the own self-motivation and the intrinsic motivation contained in creativity in any field, at any time. So the students need to be able to identify, well, what I just created then, that's really new, that's really cool, and take away stuff from that. From the teacher's standpoint, I think that it's important for the teacher to have good dialogue with the student to be able to identify when something is creative. or when the students are involved in the creative process, the teacher, being an expert in the field, one would hope, would be able to draw on their own professional body of knowledge to identify when things are, where the student is in their exploration of a specific discipline or genre or body of knowledge, and then know where the student is, where the students are in that, with their body of knowledge and their manipulation and creativity in that body of knowledge, but then be able to see where they move within that body in exploration and creative process to see if they are actually pushing the limits of their creative abilities. The idea, in my opinion, is to keep the students always pushing the limits of their creativity. Always have them creating something that's a little bit on the edge of comfortable. So the students are almost at the edge of their abilities. So they're always pushing themselves over that edge and pushing their knowledge over that edge. They're always looking for new things. If they're continuously working in an area that they're 100% comfortable, well, then there's not going to be a whole lot of novel thought and novel concepts emerge from that. If they're working in an area that is new to them, and they're every day they're looking around for new material, and they're being introduced to new things, then that whole idea of the unknown and that exploration, the novel ideas, are going to create real motivation for the students to continue being creative.